Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and thanks for joining us again. I had said in the last video I was going to talk about rights of possession. I'm not. I'm going to be dealing with other questions that are more frequently asked, and a couple of which came in the last week. As far as rights of possession are concerned, if it's of urgent interest to you, a very small minority of people here deal with it. You can always ask. Otherwise, I'll deal with it in another video later on. I've been very busy over the last week or so. I wrote an article for Barron's, which is a financial publication in the U.S., and I've written for them several times before. This was on Panama, and so I really had my time taken up, because when you work with an editor, you're getting something put together. It really does take up your attention, and there's always a deadline that has to be met. And it was, and all is fine. But it means I'm a couple of days, 3 days, maybe later in making a video that I normally would. Thank you for your patience. I'd rather talk today about tolerance. I think tolerance is a very important question. People will ask me, they'll say, oh, it's a Roman Catholic country, I'm not a Roman Catholic, is that a problem? Do they have a problem with Americans? Do they have a problem with Europeans or people who don't speak Spanish, and on and on and on. Any number of different concerns people have that they will be treated or mistreated because of a point of view or their ethnicity or their religion or whatever. In Panama, let me start off by saying this is a nation of 4 million human beings, so we have everything. You can always find anybody who feels strongly on any issue from any particular angle somewhere in the country, just as you can everywhere else. But in Panama, there is a tradition that remains very common today, that whatever we have as private feelings, we keep to ourselves. Oh, we share them with family, we share them with good friends and people of a like attitude, but we don't raise them in public and use them to hurt other people or cause trouble or controversy. It's considered to be extremely impolite. I mean, really, really rude. It's not appreciated, and if you go too far, it can lead to an intervention. There's somebody coming up and just giving you a piece of their mind. Let me give you an example of that, and this is one area where there's sometimes you have to be concerned about, and that is making criticisms of Panama and Panamanians in public. Most people wouldn't do that, but occasionally it happens. And I was out when I was first here years ago with a European friend who was showing me around. So we stopped at the supermarket, and there was a line that said 10 items only. Okay. And there was a woman down there with, I don't know, 15, 16 items, clearly more than 10. And he'd had a long day. He was tired, and he was just not in a good mood. And he said, oh, and he complains, oh, look at her, she's got all these extra things, and oh my. And then finally he said, in a voice that could be heard, of course, it's a crowded supermarket, that's the problem with Panama. You know, people don't stay in line, they just push ahead, they don't follow the rules. But suddenly he directed it against the country and the people as a whole. Now, during this entire affair, everybody's going about their business as if nothing is happening. They all hear it. And as Americans and Brits and Canadians and Aussies and everybody else eventually learn here, is that a lot of people understand English. They may be shy about speaking it because they don't speak it very well and they don't want to make mistakes or embarrass themselves. Very much like expats who come here and don't want to use their Spanish for the same reason. But English is taught in the schools. They can understand a good deal of it, and they can certainly understand the tone of voice and the style. Everybody knew what was going on in that store, and what his problem was and what he was talking about. But then he got to this point of Panamanians and all that. And the woman, I'd say in her 50s, directly in front of us, just turned around, looked him in the eye and said, if you don't like it here, go home. All right? Again, no one else in the store so much as batted an eyelash, as if nothing had happened. They'd all heard it. They knew what was going on, and they heard her. I'm sure they approved of what she had to say. So one of the things you don't do is, you can have I mean, you can sit with a Panamanian, and the Panamanian will criticize Panama all the time, and you can raise a criticism. You're friends, you know each other. Not a problem to discuss. It's like any normal conversation. But in public, among strangers and what have you, to criticize the country you're visiting or living in is a different story. And I suspect that it's very much the same in whatever nation you come from, too, that you don't appreciate too much a foreigner who in public makes insulting comments about your country or your people. Well, it's no different here. But as a rule, people just ignore this sort of event in the hopes it will go away. But when it reaches a certain point, it is very likely that somebody will step up and speak to you rudely, as you are being rude yourself, and point out to you, no, this is not acceptable behavior. I see that once every 3 or 4 years. It's not common to any one person. I wouldn't think most of us have seen it that often. I hope not. It is rare, but it can happen. And other times people won't actually say anything, but because it will stop or it will go away, as they say. But they still will be very offended. And they think a lot less of us who are foreigners visiting here when we talk and act like that. And I'm with them. I agree. I think it's a very wise way of looking at it. So you need to keep that in mind. You just can't say anything that passes your mind, particularly in English or certainly in Spanish. But the point is that you need to choose your words in a way that would be suitable for a Panamanian visiting your nation to choose their words if they were speaking about you and your country. Okay. Now, the other side of the story is whether or not your group and the people you identify with, your ideology, your religion, your ethnicity, whatever, everything, gender, sexual preference, you name it, anything like this, is this going to lead to you being attacked or severely criticized and so on? Because that can get pretty nasty in some societies. Well, the answer is no. This is not the appropriate way. You may feel something negative about a particular ethnic group. A representative is standing right there in front of you. But the idea of saying anything about it, to use your language in public as a weapon to hurt other people on the basis of any of these categories, is just plain unacceptable. It's just wrong behavior. People do not like it. And just because they're silent and they're not saying anything does not for 1 second mean that they approve or that they agree. Because as I say, even if they agree, they do not approve of the way in which you're acting. So that's an extraordinarily important point to understand. Panama is a business country. People from all over the world, many different nationalities. They've been here for decades. Our first Chinese person who became a citizen was registered in 1854 when the railroad was built across the isthmus. And then later when the French came and then the Americans for the building canals, we had thousands and thousands of people from all over the world, from China, from India, from all over Latin America, certainly from the Caribbean. And the people who brought the ships in and became very involved here economically were, of course, the big shipping communities, the Lebanese, the Greeks, and many others who had, for whom this was normal. This is the canal. So everything's centered on that. And they learned to get along and work with each other very well, even though their people back home might not be getting along well at all. But if you're going to get business done, you didn't sit there and get angry about the client's religion, for heaven's sakes, or anything else. I'm sure there were periods in the past that might have been difficulty, but this is not considered at all acceptable behavior in Panama to start criticizing other groups like that. Wrong. Just don't do it. The fundamental attitude is that I have my personal life, you have yours. Fine, we don't have to throw our lives in each other's faces or get into disagreement. We're here to get along. What can we do together? Can we make some money? Can I sell you something? It's a business country. And it's now, that attitude is so much a part of how people act. I just think I like it. I like it very much. In fact, we had a member of the National Assembly who made some very strong comments about a nationality, another Latin American nationality. And she may have had righteous anger going for her, but The fact that she had publicly criticized another nationality led to very severe criticism, and she had to apologize for that. Not for the point she made, of course, but for how she had done it. And that's, even at the political level, when you see how active politics are down here, they're very strongly worded and so on, you understand that even there is a limit to what you say or do that's harmful to another person in public. So how does this work out? It works out very well. I'll tell you a little story. It's amusing. Friends of mine who own property here but live up in the U.S. were down to visit their property, and they called me and said, let's get together and have dinner. And they said, any restaurant you'd like to go to? And I said, well, there's a new Middle Eastern restaurant between the two of us, so it's easy walking distance for both of us. I'd like to try it. If you're into that, that's fine with me. And they said, sure. So we did. We sat down, and very nice restaurant, and made our orders. And as the waiter was about to take the orders away, I just looked up to him and I said, by the way, who's the owner of this restaurant? Expecting a name, or a corporate name or something like that. And he just looked at me very plainly and said, 2 Palestinians and a Jew. 2 Palestinians and a Jew. I loved it. I mean, that is so Panama. I mean, you identified groups that might not get along well anywhere else at all. Here, there were discussions of this in the newspaper, talked to the various members of the community of different groups. People are serious about living together in peace and doing business together. And they'll tell you, what's happening back in another country or my original home nation or something, well, that's their problem. Here, we get along. And I've seen so many examples of that in the time I've been here. Again, maybe decades ago, there might have been a different story. I don't know. Latin America went through some difficult periods. But I have found that to be very true now. And people can have very strong personal opinions, but it's the way they use them, so to speak. They're not appreciated when they turn them into public weapons. So it's just something for you to recognize too. I think it should be easy to get into. If you're the sort of person who can be flexible and agree to disagree with somebody else and just not get involved in arguments over nationality or religion or something else, fine. You're not going to have any trouble. If you come and you're the sort of person who really feels this need to be out in public and to make attacks against other groups, you're not going to be happy here. We're not going to be happy with you. You really need to find another place or find it in your heart to open up and change. As simple as that. So tolerance does not mean you necessarily like someone or that you adopt their lifestyle or that you approve of some activity they do. Tolerance means we're all in this together. We all live here together. It's our home, and we need to treat each other with respect and be polite and keep our personal feelings to ourselves when they're hurtful to other people. I think that's pretty good, and I can live in that sort of society very easily. Okay, that's it, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.